I want to start this show by reminding you of what it is that separates us from the beasts. Because if we say that heaven, the sight of God, is the fulfillment of the human soul, that the human soul was made all along to enjoy as its perfection this blessed vision, then we want to be absolutely certain of what it is that separates us from those living creatures, also created good by the good Lord, but not enjoying their end in that blessed sight. And today, I would like to focus on two faculties, that is, the will and the intellect. A will that is free, judgment that is free, and an intellect that informs the judgment on what it is that we ought to be pursuing. Namely, our goal is to know God even as we are known, the fulfillment of the intellect, il ben dell'intelletto, as Dante says in hell. That good should spur us on, even though we may perceive it only dimly, very dimly, must or should spur us on in a kind of journey of love, all right? But we sinners on earth darken our minds by sin and disorder our loves. We either love good things that God has created and in the wrong way. We love them in a disordered fashion. We love them as if they were God. Or we love things that are evil, twisted, warped for their own sake. In this particular scene here, it's one of the early scenes in the Inferno. The first circle of hell is actually not reserved for sinners who were wicked in this life. There are no torments in that circle. It's the edge or rim of hell. This is what the word limbo literally means. And that circle is reserved for virtuous pagans who did not have the faith, or for children who died before they were baptized. Beneath that circle is where the punishments start. It's the punishments that are torments designed to fit, more or less, the sin that the sinners gave their hearts to here on earth when they lived. Dante describes the climate of this first ring in these words: I now begin to hear arising wails of sorrow. I have come where the great cries batter me like a wave pounding the shore. It is a place where all light is struck dumb. Moaning is when high winds from east and west wrestle upon the sea in a fierce storm. That hellish cyclone that can never rest snatches the spirits up in its driving whirl, whisks them about and beats and buffets them. And when they fall before the ruined slope, then the shrieking, the laments, the cries, then they hurl curses at the power of God. I learned that such a torment was designed for the damned who were wicked in the flesh, who made their reason subject to desire. I just want you to think about that cyclone. These are the souls who, giving themselves up to lust on earth, acted as if, when it came to the will and the intellect, it was the intellect that had to follow the will. That the intellect was not a guiding principle, showing you what in fact your goal is, what the good is to which you should aspire. Not that at all. But that you are determined by these desires that come at you, often physically in this life, and reason or intellect merely capitulates and follows. Well, you see the result that we would produce if we acted in this way. We would be like people tossed here and there by the often random and violent urgings of our wills unconstrained and undirected by intellect. And this is exactly how the souls are punished. Or you can put it this way: in their refusal to acknowledge the principle of intellect higher than their wills, they are now suffering a loss of will, removed from its rightful object. This is exactly what we suffer in part in this life when we do that. We know that there are certain sins, and lust is among them, perhaps the most violent and addictive among them, that eat away at our capacity to do anything other than to engage in that sin. And so finally, steeped in that sin, we feel as if we had no choice but to do what we have made a habit of doing. We're caught by it. We have no more will. So Dante describes these souls as they are flung. And as a flock of starlings, winter-beaten, founder upon their wings in widening turns, so did that whirlwind whip those evil souls, flinging them here and there and up and down, nor were they ever comforted by hope. No hope for rest, or even lesser pain. No peace, no rest. As I said in the previous episode, what you will so often see in Dante's Inferno is activity, ceaseless activity that comes to no end. I don't mean an end in time, but a purpose, no fulfillment. Nothing happens. They're flung here and there and everywhere, so in that sense, yes, the scene is constantly changing, but there's no real change. There's no goal. That's all gone, and thus no true rest. Now, Dante notices various souls here. He asks Virgil to name a few. We get Cleopatra, we get Helen of Troy, we get various knights in the old courtly romances who found themselves enamored of other people's wives. And then finally he notices two young and beautiful souls, or they should have been beautiful, and I think he knows who they are, and he wants to talk to them. Let me tell you who they are. They were contemporaries of Dante. The story was scandalous, was known by everybody in northern Italy. Their names are Paolo and Francesca. Francesca da Rimini. She was married to a count in the Italian city on the Adriatic of the Rimini. Her husband was hunchbacked, rather ugly, brutal, cruel, not terribly intelligent either, I don't know. But he had a younger brother, Paolo, and he was good-looking and courtly. He was blessed with all the natural graces that a man can be blessed with in this life. And he and she fell in love with one another, and one day were caught in the act by her husband. And before they had a chance to repent, murdered in cold blood. Dante knows this story and thinks that he sees that couple right now, and he wants to talk to them.